Here are a couple of examples of our formula to find the slope, or using the graphs to find the slope. So we're going to use the graphs for 3 of these, and then I'm going to use the slope formula for the other 3. I might show you a couple of ordered pairs as well. So I'm just going to use the graph here. So when I look at this graph, I'm going to pick points that are exact, because that makes life so much easier if I do that. So the first point I'm going to pick is over here. And that's at 1, 2, 3, 4, -4 and +2. So that's the first point I'm going to pick. The second point I'm going to pick that's exact is going to be right here. That's an exact point. It's hard with these graphs sometimes. They kind of wobble a little bit when you make the graph on the computer. They don't always line up exactly, but in this case it is. So we're going to do our rise over run. And so because it's this way, I know my answer is going to be negative, because that's a negative slope. It goes this way. So I'm going to put my negative in already. It doesn't matter if I count up and over or down and over, but I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I like to start on the left side point. So I went down 3. That's why that 3 is negative. And then I went over 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope is at -3/4. Okay, because the rise over run, this is the rise and this is the run. So you can have a negative rise when you talk about slope. Your second one, we've got, again, rise over run. You do not have to write the words rise over run every single time. It's totally up to you if you want to, but you really don't have to. And I'm going to pick this point here, and I'm going to pick this point here. Again, they're not exact at this point, but they're supposed to be, so let's pretend that they are. So for my rise, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4 is my rise. And for my run, I'm going over 1. And yes, when we're graphing later on this unit, we want to make sure we put that 1 down. For right now, you can put just 4, or you can put 4 over 1. I don't care. Either way, whatever you're most comfortable with putting for a slope. Right, the next one, we're going to look at this third one. We've got rise over run. So I'm going to pick 2 points that are exact if I can. I'm going to try anyway. So here's a point at -4 and 0. And here's a point at 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 and 4. And so you can't just count. You know, I have people before, they're like, why can't I just count this way? Because it's a slant. It's not the same thing. But you can go rise, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we could know that because we're going from 0 to 4, which is a rise of 4. And this is a positive slope. And then our run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so this is not the answer, though, because this, we can reduce this fraction. And that's going to give us 2/3 for a slope. All right, so let's do a couple with ordered pairs and not just graphs. As a reminder, for our ordered pairs, when we do an ordered pairs, we're going to talk about our y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, or the change in y over the change in x, which we can also say, oh my goodness, I'm having a hard time with writing y's today. Change in y over the change in x, delta y over delta x, the difference in y over the difference in x. And so I'm going to use these problems down here. And so I like to label. I am a labeler, big time labeler. And so I'm going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. And it simply is x1, y1, y2, x2, y2 because it's the first x. It's the very first one. We're reading left to right because we read left to right when we read. So it's the first one, and this is the first y. This is the second x, this is the second y. That's the only reason I do that. And I'm going to write my formula because the more you write it, the easier it is to remember it. Remember, y to the sky. Y is always in the numerator. X is always in your denominator. And so I'm going to take my y's, and I'm going to say 2 minus -1. So the big mistake that people make here is adding mistakes, because they have mistakes with adding, subtracting, positives and negatives. So you want to make sure you check that. And then for my x's, it's going to be 6 minus 4 And so my answer becomes, well, remember that 2 minus negative 1 is the same as saying 2 plus 1, so that gives me a 3. And 6 minus 4 is 2. So my slope is 3 over 2. And yes, I want to leave it like that. I do not want to write that as a mixed numeral. I want to leave it as an improper fraction because that's the best way to leave it for slope. It's going to make it much easier when we graph to have it in that form. All right, so let's do this second one, and then we're going to do one more. So again, x1, y1, x2, y2, and my slope is y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. And I'm actually going to do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2 to show you that it's the same thing, as long as we start with the same one each time. So I'm actually going to start here, and I'm going to say negative 2 minus 3 divided by 3 minus 4, and that's going to give me a negative 5 over negative 1, which is in fact a positive 5. And if I did it the other way, I would say 3 minus negative 2 over 4 minus 3, and you can see I get the same thing, except I don't have any negatives. And so it's really up to you which one you want to start with. As long as you start with the same ordered pair each time, it doesn't matter. Last one I want to show you is this one right down here. And so we're going to take y minus y, x minus x, difference in y's divided by the difference in x. And so I'm going to take and label everything. And there's my labels. So I'm going to take that my slope is 10 minus 4 right here. And then I'm going to say negative 5, take away negative 5. And we can see that 10 minus 4 is 6. But negative 5 take away negative 5 is the same as saying negative 5 plus 5, and a number plus its opposite is 0. Now this is not 0. 0 is in my denominator, so this is undefined. Remember, I also told you if the x's are the same, my slope is undefined. Okay, x's are the same, slope is undefined. If my y's are the same, in this case, y's are the same, my slope is 0. Okay, and my y's are the same here. And if you write that and you don't do your work, that's fine for those ones because I'm giving you that hint. Last thing I want to show you real quick, and I know I said we were going to do one video and I lied, sorry. Sometimes I forget how much we have to do for slope. Remember positive and negatives. Let's do this again. As we travel left to right, the graph goes up, so the slope is positive. As we go from left to right, the slope goes down, so my slope is negative. As we go from left to right, the slope is not steep at all. It is zero fun to ski on a flat surface. So this is 0. Again, this is a horizontal line. So the y's are all the same. This is actually the graph of y equals 2. And then the last one is the graph is so steep we can't call it a slope. If you do that on a ski hill, you're not going to do very well. This is undefined. This is a vertical line. X values are the same. And this is actually a graph of 3, x equals 3. Anytime it's a vertical line, it's going to be x equals, horizontal line is y equals. And that slope, see you later.